Welcome to the second podcast.
Wow, the second one.
Kind of. Do you want to share what happened?
You mean the fact that we're doing it over?
Yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube or Instagram, we changed our setup because we're still learning how to do this. So we recorded episode 2. We're re-recording it for a few reasons. But we're going to talk about the things we talked about in that episode that we're not going to show. But
right.
But I felt it's kind of ironic because the theme... Wait a minute. Frickin', I need to back up. Let me back it up.
Back it up.
I'm Frankie.
I'm Rena.
Okay, welcome to the Celebrate You podcast. We are on episode 2 here. We're a little unhinged, slightly unhinged, because it's vulnerable to create something new.
This is hard.
This is really hard.
Right?
So this is my apartment that we're in right now, if you're watching.
Yeah.
This is my couch. But it's not a studio, right? So,
Right.
we're working with, we got a window light here, and the lighting changes. We have some audio stuff. We were just, doing a lot of troubleshooting yesterday, and so we were like, let's re-record today. Let's record some more things today.
Sure.
And get into it. It's a lot of trial and error. But I don't know about you, but, last night, after we recorded episode 1, I was just feeling really vulnerable.
Right.
But excited.
Me too. I you do something and then you almost can't remember what you said or what it's a lot to speak in the moment and so we're kind of evaluating that and
we're just trying to get the kinks out.
That's okay.
We're just trying to figure out our style.
It kind of goes with the topic.
It does,
right?
It does. So the topic today that we want to talk to you about is imposter syndrome, and we're going to define it. We're going to talk about how it shows up in our business and in our personal life and how you can overcome imposter syndrome. But it's kind of funny because yesterday we started recording this episode and I thought you did fine, Rena, by the way.
And I thought you did fine.
Well, wow. Then why are we recording this?
Why are we redoing it?
We're redoing this because I felt like I didn't feel like I was being as honest as I could have been. I stayed on the surface a little bit. I was like, advice, here's what you can do. But I didn't give real examples on how for myself. I think you did a great job. But I was re-listening to it, and I was just like, Frankie, you could be more honest with yourself. Come on,
Well, I mean, it's like, it kind of proves the point. We're usually harder on ourselves. Yeah. But I think we can take that and analyze it and make things better. So it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Yeah. So last night we were talking, and something that we'll define imposter syndrome, but to back up a little bit, the further that you get in your career, there's always going to be areas where you don't feel like you belong or you feel like a fake.
Right.
In every stage.
Right.
In every single stage. So I think it's normal to feel like an imposter when you start something new.
Right.
When you start a creative endeavor, when you start a business, all these things.
Right.
So how would you define imposter syndrome?
Right. I think you hit it on the head because we're trying to provide a service, try to do the best we can, produce the best we can. And, for our clients, of course. And you want them to feel confident in what you have to offer, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's this little voice that says, wait a minute, am I good enough? Am I, is my skill refined enough to do this? And the answer is probably no. It's probably because we're always learning and growing. Mm-hmm. It's probably something that you have to work on constantly. But I think that little voice that tells you, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. That's really destructive, because it keeps you from moving forward. Yeah. So it's really...
we're photographers and filmmakers, but I think this applies to any field.
Oh,
you can be in any industry, starting something new. You could be starting grad school. You could be starting a new program in your studies or something, and you're like, I don't belong here. Everyone else knows what's going on more than I do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that that means there's a moment where you have to either push through that and feel the resistance and do it anyways, or you're going to let that crush you.
Right.
And there have been moments in my life where I have let that crush me too, I would say.
Yeah, it can completely make you just freeze in that moment and not take action. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where do you feel like, I don't know, do you want to start personally? Like, personally, where do you feel like you felt like a phony or a fake or an imposter? And then in business, because like we're business partners, so like we both have stories. Like I might have different stories, because sometimes we'll be on set, and I'll be flipping out about something in my head, and you're like, no, I thought that was fine. Like it's just funny. Like we are in business, but we have different stories because we both have our moments, you know. Sure. But I guess personally, how have you felt? Personally, an imposter.
Yeah, I guess you can look back on every stage of your life, and we talk about this a lot. Yeah. Like, and we're definitely at different stages, of course, right? You're just starting out, being married, and all. Yeah, you know, and it's like, it's kind of funny because when you know, I remember first being married, and maybe you feel this way too. It's like, how do you transition into that? Like, you feel like, you know, all of a sudden you're sort of an adult now. You know, you have to be responsible for your home, for your, you know, not just seeing yourself as an individual, but like there's two people now involved with things, you know, and then. That I remember that being really hard. Like all of a sudden you have to change the way you think, right?
Yeah.
And just like for me, when I became a mom the first time, like you can't possibly know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you read books, you do all these things, but like you're responsible for this new person, and it's like, I don't know how to do this.
That sounds scary.
It is scary, you know.
I don't have kids yet, but I'm like, that sounds terrifying.
But the lesson is, you know, you just do what you have to do at that level. Like when you have a baby, you don't have to think about, well, you think about a lot of things, but you don't have to worry like, oh, he's getting ready to go to college. You think about, how am I going to bathe this baby? How am I going to feed this? Like you do what's in front of you. Yeah. That reminds me.
I worry about my hypothetical.
Yeah.
I worry about my hypothetical children. I'm like, I wonder, oh my God, what schools are they going to go to?
Like you're already worried.
And I'm like, I don't even have any.
You don't
like,
have
why am I putting that on
exactly.
my non-existent children? Lord willing, then I have some. You know.
And then there was the whole, like, personally for me, it was the whole like, do I work or stay home? And there was so much pressure, and you were looked at differently, and everybody struggled with that. Like you felt guilty if you worked outside of the home. You felt like you weren't enough if you worked inside the home, you know. So you're just battling and evolving. And I think that's the lesson. Like take that feeling and, you know, kind of analyze it and see what it's trying to tell you. You know, and tell yourself the truth. Right? Tell yourself the truth. Instead of building up some story. Because the minute you start to say, I'm not good enough, I don't know how to do this, then guess what? You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I talked about this in our last in episode 1.
Yes.
I talked about my therapist.
Right.
And she was telling me, she was like, if you will always find evidence for that. Whatever it is, even the negative thing, like you'll find evidence, and I don't mean that like that you're making, like if bad things have happened in your, and we're not counselors, we're not therapists, but like you know, talk to yours, but like, talk to yours about your life. But I think that like
disclaimer,
with disclaimer. But what she was trying to challenge me was like there is some truth into what I'm saying and some of my fears and what I was talking about at that time, but also that like if I'm looking to feel like I don't belong, I'm going to find evidence for why I don't belong. And I could still find the same evidence for why I do belong.
Yes.
And so it is retraining your mind. It's like we have these pathways in our mind that are just paved. It's just like this paved road. There's pavement, but to create new pathways, it's like you have to do a lot of work. You got to like trim down a tree and like pave a new path. It's a lot of work, and it's not, it feels kind of like you're going against the gradient to say, you know what, I'm not going to entertain that thought. I'm actually going to go this way, you know?
Right.
I feel like, I mean, I was actually just, okay, wait, this, a side note.
Oh, side note.
A side note. Like literally before we started recording this episode, I was crying because
wow, you're getting real now.
I'm getting really real. I mean, I don't have to go into details about everything, but I mean, I was just feeling kind of vulnerable about like yesterday and just kind of like, are we enough? Like starting this podcast and like who's gonna care, and also like do I even care? All these different things coming up, and it's just kind of like, you know what, let's just hit record and do it anyways. Like, we don't have to always be, at least for me, I'm trying to learn that, like, not every day I have to be this, like, polished version of myself that I want to be. Right. And that's why this is called the Celebrate You podcast. I think even, like, I want to celebrate that, too, of just being, like, showing up anyways, even when you're not feeling it. You're not, yeah. I don't know. I know it's a side note and a little bit of a tangent, but
I think it's so true. Like, why not? Like,
yeah.
Why not try new things? I mean,
and I think that, in my personal life, I felt like an imposter because I have friends, and we all do. I think no matter what life stage you're at, we're all of my friends, all of us, like, we're all in such different life stages, and watching people grow in other ways in their personal life, or other people are over here, or I just feel like I'm kind of flailing around as somewhat of a newlywed and things like that. So I just kind of feel like inadequate, and that kind of pours in. If I'm not in the right headspace, that's going to pour into how I act in my business with you as a business partner. So we spent like the whole morning like regrouping. That's what we did. At least for me. You were giving me a huge pep talk of like, Frankie, like, come on. So that's what's interesting too. Is like, you're my mother. You're my mom too. Yeah. You're my business partner.
I know.
But you're also my mom. So how do you?
Well, yeah. I mean,
deal with that. And then I'll bring us back to imposter syndrome, but...
Right. When you think about it, it's a lot, isn't it? Because we have this other relationship plus the business relationship. So it makes it really interesting. But, like, I mean, it definitely works. And, like, I think...
it works for us.
Yeah, it really does. And, like, we can get each other through some tough moments because we do have this deep love for one another, you know, besides the business. And we know what's really important. Like, at the end of the day, your personal life is more important to me than the business, of course. But, like, because we can iron out all those other things, like, I think we can build a better business because we have that trust with one another. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard to get over those hurdles. But every time we do, I think we, you know, kind of get to a new level with things. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think as a team, it's like you, me, and then when we have contractors and we have our producer, Michelle, as well, like, the more, I don't know, I think that, like, we're realizing that, like, caring for yourself is, like, just as important as, like, the tasks you have to do, especially during this time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, like, for me this morning, a lot was coming up for me just because of, like, the current times and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And, just, you know, just trying to deal with, like, business stuff and personal stuff, and it's okay to just have those moments. But when I have those moments, imposter syndrome does kind of creep in because I'm like, this is not what I think a business owner should act. I should be more professional. But it's like, who is saying that, like, emotions aren't professional? Like, who said that? You know, I'm a person. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
And I think I always try to embrace those things that you can think of as negative. Like, if you embrace them, I think that helps in the creativity process, because if we were just so professional and robot-like and everything was perfect and we had like a formula, like, I mean, especially in our business, there is no real formula because every client's different. Everybody has different needs. Every project is different. Some require, you know, a more straightforward approach. Some require a really creative approach, and we have to bend with all that. So, like, what use would we be if we were just these, like, you know, this kind of thing, this
robot.
What do they call that when you
narrow
know
focus.
We put the blinders on and you only see one way? Like, so in a way, seeing everything kind of can be like overwhelming sometimes because we're taking it all in. Yeah. But I think as creatives, like, that's what fuels us. I really believe that. Like,
and also, you know, it's really important to care for yourself as a creative person, especially if the creative things that you do are for your career. Because if you don't deal with the stuff that's going on personally in your life, it will, you know, manifest in other ways. So, like, if I feel like if I didn't have this, like, whatever little moment this morning that I had of like crying, I might project that in a client meeting and be more defensive in my head of like, and just kind of making assumptions. Like, I need to own and deal with my shit.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah. This was a weird segue. I hope that, like,
Yeah, well,
this resonates with people.
I mean,
but I'm just processing because I'm feeling kind of vulnerable right now. I'm just kind of like, I had a moment.
Well, I think that's kind of why we wanted to redo this part, because like I want to show that I'm okay with showing that.
I'm fine with that.
We're there.
No, yeah, thank you for going there with me.
Yeah.
I agree. That like this is why we wanted this podcast, because I wanted I wanted to have these conversations with you.
Yeah.
Anyways,
right.
I'm excited to debrief that with you.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of business owners feel that way.
Right.
And we're all going through something different, though. So if you can glean something from this, hope we can encourage you and walk alongside you in that. Because I will say, I think lately I've been feeling like I love Instagram. Like, I really do. For myself personally, when I see our feed, I'm like, I don't want to portray just this like polished view of Storia.
Right.
Storia is our business, if you don't know. But
right.
This polished view of us. But like, there's only I can't show every aspect of our life on Instagram, because Instagram is like just snapshots, So that's why I'm excited for this like long form of content to kind of go there with you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like showing all of it.
It's fun. I mean, we're open books. We're, if you like met up with us at a coffee shop, well, right now we can't really go to a coffee shop because of COVID. But like, if you met up with us, this is how it would be.
Right.
But anyways, just a side note, something that I was thinking about when we were talking about imposter syndrome professionally, when I feel like an imposter, it's not typically when I'm around like our clients. I don't feel like, oh my gosh, are they going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing? It's actually usually around when I'm other industry professionals, when I'm around other filmmakers, other editors,
I get that.
Audio people, mentors. I'm like, they are going to find out.
They're going to find out.
And that's why I wanted to re-record this, because I felt like I wasn't being honest yesterday. I just kind of stayed on the surface and I didn't give a concrete example.
Okay.
And I think that when we started this business, we started a photography and video business, and you are our lead photographer, and, I was really involved in the film world, and then we kind of like, we started educating each other, right?
Right.
But in a way, when you're just starting out, like, you're just like, you just create with what you have in the beginning. And we're still doing that, in the beginning, and we're only 3 years in here, and we've learned so much. But I noticed that, like, when we would do projects with you, it was just you and I, like, behind the camera. And if, like, we would do something that maybe another person wouldn't do it that way, I wasn't as worried of you judging me.
Right.
Because you're my mother and business partner. And I'm like, only we know. Only we have to know that we did it that way. Like, how we would light something.
Right.
How we would maybe set up the audio, whatever. But then, chapter 2 of our business, like year 2, we started bringing a few more people on. And it's really vulnerable to let people in on your systems, how you set up, how you would lead. So, like, when we hired, like, our first couple of people as a contractor, helping us with editing, or, Michelle's, like, working on producing and scheduling and, client interaction, I'm like, oh, like, they're going to see, like, the inside, like the not so polished stuff. And so, like, fear came up for me in that. And I'm just like, they're going to find out. And I even remember the first time, I mean, this was like, so long ago, 2 months ago, like 3 months ago, I, like, for one of our video projects, we hired, like, a bigger, like, a few more people. Like, we had a more of a crew for a shoot. And it was my first time directing. Right. And I got out of the car, and, the people that we hired were there getting ready to set up, and the client was there. And I had notes written down on what I was going to say. I was going to do this, like, rah speech. I was going to be like, hey guys, like, let's just collaborate. Let's just have fun today. Like, can I pull you guys aside? Let me, like, I was going to give everyone a pep talk and then, like, pull people aside to be like, okay, now here's the action plan today. Get out of the car. And I just, like, went, like it was
froze.
Just, I froze, and I just kind of, like, stared at everybody awkwardly, and I was like, awkward pause. I didn't know what to say. And maybe the people looking back, like, they weren't judging me as harshly as I am now, but I just remember, like, blanked. I just completely, it's like I wrote all these notes down.
That's what happens, that blank.
All went out the window, and my brain was just like, you're an idiot, you're stupid, no one's gonna listen to you, like, you don't even know what you're doing, like, why did the client even hire you, like, you're not even good, like, within, these thoughts are happening.
Fast.
It's not like over the course of the day I had the thoughts. It's like within 3 seconds. It's like, you're a failure, you're this, you're that. And it comes on so strongly. I forget what I did to get through it. I just remember my brain being like, speak, start talking,
right.
say anything. And then the words came out.
Right.
Fine, after like a weird, awkward pause. And then I said what I had to say.
Right.
And it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
But like I noticed that when we try new things with more industry professionals, that's when I start to freeze up.
Yeah. Well, I think too it goes back to
it's so funny.
And this can relate, I think people can relate and maybe don't even realize what's really happening when you start something new or you're trying to grow in your business. Like those fears that you have that's what's going to come and meet you at the door. For some reason, whatever you're afraid of is going to show up.
It will.
It will show up.
It's not an if, it's a when.
Yes. And pretty much in the first 5 seconds. Like I know for me.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just the way our mind works. And we're always trying to control it. So maybe you even practice like what I was going to say and all of that. But for some reason, I think the fear is bigger than the confidence maybe sometimes but the good news is,
tell me the good news.
The good news is once you do it, like that it may happen again, but it's not going to happen as severe. It's not going to happen. It's not going to seem like a 20-minute pause. It's just going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that feeling.
Anyways, move on.
And let's move on and do it. I mean, I feel like that too in the studio sometimes when we're doing like straight up portrait work. Like I know all of this stuff. I know how to pose people and all, but like for some reason the fear is like I'm not going to be able to give the client what they want or how they perceive themselves.
Yeah.
So for the first little bit, it's that same awkwardness, but you try not to let them see it. You want them to be comfortable. But then all of a sudden when you let it go, it's like your best self comes out, And
it's so funny because I will say there have been times we've had other incidences. Like, I mean, I don't want to get into all the specifics, but being on set when I was completely shutting down because of something, and later I'll be debriefing with you or Michelle, who's our producer, and I'll be like, oh, I completely flipped out back there, and Michelle will be like,
what?
I didn't even notice. So I think it's like
it feels bigger to you. It feels
bigger, but really it's just like an internal monologue.
Yeah.
And we actually as a team have talked about when we're in that headspace and you need help, so I have to readjust. The couch is sinking me in.
It's comfy.
It's a comfy couch, but you gotta readjust sometimes. Like the three of us had a chat once because we do shoots a lot, and just being like, if something is going down and you're like, if something's going wrong with equipment or you're kind of having a moment, like pull one of us aside,
right,
like we were kind of like
let people help.
We were kind of joking like, should we have a code word? But it's like, no, just like have the courage to reach out and let your team know, I'm not doing okay and I just need a minute. And that doesn't mean you could like storm off set. I don't mean it that way, but just being like, let me just regroup real quick, like I'll be right back, or like just like pretend to like I don't know, take a bathroom break or something and like collect yourself. Like I've done that before where I've been like, I have to go to the bathroom, and I just kind of like look in the mirror and I take a deep breath.
Yeah, I mean it shows that one of the I feel like there's 2 things that can pull you out of imposter syndrome right away. One is like communication, if that's with your team or if that's with the client, whatever it is.
Or a mentor in your life.
Yes, communication, right? But, the second one, which is so important, especially when you're in the moment and you're actually on a job, it's like service. Like, why are we so focused on ourselves?
Amen.
Focus on your client. Like, what are you trying to do for them? Like, get back to why you're doing what you're doing. They don't care if you have all the answers. They don't care.
They just want to know you're in their corner.
Yes. They don't care if you have the best lighting system or the best camera or the best equipment or whatever. They just care that you care about them and that you care about their project and that you're servicing them. And I think that's huge. That's huge. That's huge. And that has helped.
Imposter syndrome, which is basically the focus on like, I feel like I don't belong and I'm gonna get caught.
Yeah, I'm gonna get caught.
It's such the focus. It's such the focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like I'm over here battling an insecurity internally. Let me just like put my ego. It's also, I don't know, that's kind of my ego though. Yeah. Feeling scared or whatever, and it's like, okay, let's go outward instead of going inward.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Like you'll get so caught up in your own insecurities that you fail to realize what a privilege it is to do what you're doing. Right. And yeah, you know what? Maybe another filmmaker would do what we do differently, and that's okay. That's why there's so many different people in the industry. Yeah. And that's why you collaborate with different people that you can rely on. And right. I don't know if you like, I try to get better at just being like more honest with myself and being like, you know what, I've never done that before, and that's okay. Yeah. Because you were, you know, we've said before, there's this quote that's like, everybody has a day one. Everybody has a day one. I love that. You know, every expert that you look up to has had a day one. Yeah. And I feel like as we get to know more people in the, you know, in our world, in the community of filming or photography, you know, everybody has these insecurities, I think, you know, and if they don't, you know, show them, then I don't know. Okay. It's okay. It's fine. But like, I love the people. That's why I like, you know, working in some type of coaching or mentorship with someone, because they are so willing to share. Like, the best coach, the best mentor is going to tell you everything I did wrong so you don't do it wrong. Yeah. And that makes me feel like, wow, you did that wrong? You're like up here. Yeah. And if you did it wrong at some point, you know, I'm okay, because it makes me feel like, you know. It humanizes it. Yes, for sure. Yeah. For sure. So embrace the mess. Embrace the mess. Embrace it. Do it anyways. Like, even this podcast, we kind of just like, we've been wanting to do it for a while. Right. But I think this was a good time for us to start it with our schedules, but there is a layer of like, are we really gonna be like podcast people? Is that what we are now? Like, but and just kind of like insecure and all this stuff. But then it's like, no, like we have a story worth sharing. Yeah, we love to talk, and I just like even if no one listens and it's just you and I talking. Yeah, like that's fun. That's fun. That's fun. I love it. But I do think that. Yeah, we get in our own way sometimes, and you got to fight through. And I think another step is just being aware of your own thoughts. What's your self-talk like? I'm really trying to work on that myself. Yeah, because like, what's below the imposter syndrome? What is it? What do you think? I know what it is for me. What's below it? Yeah, like what? So I walk in a room and I'm like, oh my god, all these people are like, they just know what they're doing, and that. So why is that bad? You know, what are you trying to get at? Tell me. I just think it's. I think it boils down to fear. We're afraid. We're afraid, and that fear will stop you. And it's so funny because there's so many real, actual things to be afraid of that are like actually like terrifying, right? Right. But, like, what is the worst that could happen? Oh, I walk in a room and like someone goes, "Oh, that person doesn't know what they're doing." Like, if it happens, like, I'm still alive. I'm going to be okay. Right. It's a comment. I can't control what people think. Right. So is it really that actually terrifying? Like, it's just weird. Like, when you get down to it, it's like, okay, let's play it out. What if that does happen? Right. Right. And cares? I always say, like, any negative thing that comes up, use it as a guide, not as a, you know, not as the final word. So whatever it is that you're afraid, like, maybe we are afraid that, you know, sometimes we walk into a situation and we don't know how we're going to film that or what we're going to do. That just means we need to master our craft more. Okay? That's not a bad thing. Yeah. Let it teach you. Like, something. If we're only doing everything that we know how to do well, we're never going to grow. Like, how are we going to do you know, I can remember certain things would be like, okay, how are we going to do that? Oh, we need, you know, we might need two, like when we first started, we might need two mics. That was huge. We were like, we need two microphones. We need two microphones. Oh no, we don't know how to do that. Now we have microphones. Yeah, and now, and it, you know, and when you make a mistake, that's how you learn. I mean, I used to tell you that when you were little. Yeah. Right? Remember? It's true. Right. Oh, that's why you go to school, you know, because you don't know things. You are. I know. Learning. I'd be like, I did so bad. Right. I was so hard on myself as a kid with tests. I was like, I don't think I did well on this test, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, that's why it's a test. Like, that's why you're in school. And I was like harsher. Like, some people would come home from school
Yeah.
and they'd be scared what their parents would say to them about a bad grade. Like, you and Dad were almost like, you're being too hard on yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, if I got a B or a C on something, you were like, well, was it? That's okay. Like, you were almost like trying to comfort us. I'm like,
Right.
well, we're just proud of you. And I was like, it could have been better. I could have had an A+.
Right. I think what I always used to try to say too is it's better for you if you make a mistake, say on a test, go back, see what you did wrong.
Yeah.
I said you will remember that more than if you got an A on that test.
You did.
If you got an
say
A
that.
on that test and you were perfect at it and you spelled everything right and you did it all right, you're never going to remember. But if you had to go back and fix a mistake, that's how you remember the right way to do it. It's the same way
That's
with
everything.
with everything.
I'm having flashbacks because I don't think anyone. I'm asking as if our audience would know this. If you don't know, when I
Right.
was like in second grade, I was so bad at spelling tests.
Yeah.
It was really embarrassing, and spelling tests were a very intense thing. But that's a life lesson. That's
Yeah.
not, you carry that on. But it's true, because every mistake we've ever made on a shoot or in our business is now in our contract. Now it's in our
Yes.
releases. Now it's how we explain things to clients. It's how we communicate with contractors. Like, every mistake becomes something we now will never forget, to never
Right.
forget that thing.
Right.
We always have backup of this now. We always have extra memory cards. We always have extra
Yeah.
batteries. Like, you know, but even beyond that.
Yeah, and I think that's the message. It's like, don't let not feeling good enough about something stop you from trying it. Right?
That's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
everything. So,
Oh, man. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for coming along the ride.
yeah, this was fun.
This was like an imposter syndrome take 2, because we felt like imposters talking about imposter syndrome.
Whoa.
It's like
That's
imposter
really funny.
inception. And it's a lot. So thank you for coming along the ride. If you've made it this far, thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
Thank
It was-
you.
oh, you too. It's
And
fun.
if you are interested in more behind the scenes, you can check us out at storia.studio on Instagram. Or, just thanks for stopping by. Whether you subscribe or like, whatever. I don't know. I could say all these other things, but I'm just like, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here.
As we navigate this messy thing.
Yeah,
This
I'm
podcast.
excited. Like, this is a little nerve-wracking, but it's fun.
It's fun. We're doing it anyways.
Yes, we're doing it anyways.
Yeah, it's feeling the fear and doing it anyways. So,
Love that.
cheers to that.